Hey everyone, it's John here, and in this video I'm going to show you 10 essential date calculations in Excel. Let's take a look. First up, let's take a look at what a date actually is in Excel. So Excel stores dates as serial numbers. So the first serial number, number 1, is actually going to be January 1st, 1900. Number 2 would be January 2nd, 1900. Number 3, January 3rd, 1900, etc. So each subsequent day is represented by the next integer. So here we've got our serial numbers starting at 1 and going up. And then we've got some bigger serial numbers here. And let's see what happens when we apply date formatting to these. So if we select them, go up to the Home tab and apply a date format, then we're going to see these as dates. So here is our January 1st, 1900 date, January 2nd, 1900 date. And as our serial number gets into the 45,000 range, we're going to see current dates. So here, for example, we have 45,616, and that's in fact November 20th, 2024. So dates are really just numbers with special formatting applied, and this is going to be important in certain date calculations. The first calculation we're going to take a look at is adding or subtracting a given number of days, months, or years to a date. So first up, let's take a look at adding or subtracting days to a date. And this is a really easy calculation because of our dates being serial numbers and each day being an integer. So all we need to do is add the number of days or subtract the number of days from our date. So here we've got a date, and if we want to add 7 days to that, then all we need to do is take our date and add the number of days that we want to add onto our date, and that's going to give us our new date 7 days in the future. Similarly, to subtract days, we just need to add a negative number or subtract a number from our date value, and that's going to give us our date 7 days previous. Next up, let's take a look at adding or subtracting months from a given date. And in order to do this, we're going to use the date function to construct a date value. And the date value, we're going to get the year with the year function from our date. And then the month, we're going to get from our date with the month function. And then here we're going to add our number of months. So let's add this 1 month to our date. And so that's going to give us a new month value. And then for the days in our date, we're going to use the day function and get that from our date. And that's going to give us our new date 1 month ahead. And similarly, we can do the same thing by subtracting months. And in this case here, we get a new date, 2 months previous. And finally, let's take a look at adding or subtracting years to a date. And in this case, it's going to be a very similar formula to adding or subtracting months. So I'm just going to copy and paste this down here. And here, instead of adding to the month number, we're going to remove that. And instead, we're going to add to the number of years. And now we've got the same date 1 year ahead. And similarly, we can subtract the number of years and get a date, in this case, 2 years previous. Next up, let's take a look at calculating the complete number of days, weeks, months, or years between two dates. So first, let's take a look at the number of days between dates. And this is, again, going to be a very easy calculation because our serial numbers increment by 1 for each day. And so all we need to do is subtract the two dates from each other. So our end date minus our start date. And then that's going to give us the number of days between those two dates. Next, let's take a look at the number of weeks between two dates. And for this, we're going to use the quotient function. So the quotient function is going to allow us to return the integer portion of a division. And for this, our numerator is going to be the end date minus our start date, which gives us the complete number of days. And then our denominator is going to be 7, since there's 7 days in a week. And in this example, we get 5 complete weeks between our two dates. Next up, let's take a look at the complete number of months between dates. And for this one, we're going to use a deprecated function. So the date_diff function is going to allow us to get the complete number of months. Now this is deprecated because it returns incorrect results under certain scenarios. But in this case, we can safely use it to get the complete number of months. And to do that, now because it's deprecated, Excel isn't going to give us the function signature and tell us what the arguments are. But for the date_diff function, we need the start date, and then the end date, and then the number of units. And in this case, M is going to be for complete months. And then that's going to return 1 complete month in this case. And lastly, let's take a look at the number of complete years between two dates. And again, we're going to be able to use the date_diff function. And again, we need the start date, the end date, and then the unit. And in this case, Y is going to give us the complete number of years. And when we press enter here in this example, we have 2 complete years. The next calculation we're going to take a look at is finding the number of business days between two dates. So in order to do that, we're going to use the network days function. And here we're going to use the international version, as this is going to be more flexible with what's considered a weekend. So the network days function takes a start date and an end date. And it also allows us to choose what is considered a weekend. So there's various options here that you can choose from. And so let's choose the standard American weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then the network days function also allows us to input a list of holidays that are going to be not considered as business days. And so here we can select our list of holidays. And when we press enter, then we get the total number of business days between those dates. Now, the network days function also allows us to customize our weekends completely. So if you have a situation that's not in the list of weekend parameters, then you can create a string of zeros and ones to represent work days and weekends. So for example, here, this string 0 with 5 ones and then another 0. That's going to represent Sunday as a work day, and Monday through Friday as a weekend, and then Saturday as a work day. So this allows you to completely customize the weekend calculations in Excel. And so here, instead of our preset options, we can choose this as our weekends. And then the network days function is going to return the total number of business days between those two dates based on our customized weekend. Next up, we're going to take a look at how to get the first or last day of the month. So in order to get the first day of the month, what we're going to use is the date function. And here we're going to extract the year from our date with the year function. And similar, we're going to get the month from our date with the month function. And then for the day of our newly constructed date, all we need to do is enter 1 here, since the first of the month is always going to be the first. And when we press enter, now we have the first of our month. Getting the last day of the month is also simple. And in this case, we're going to use the end of the month function. And the end of the month function is going to give us the end of the month based on a given date. And it also allows us to offset a number of months. But in order to get the end of the month for the current date, we just need to enter a 0 for the number of months. And when we press enter, we get the end of that month. In this case, November 30th. Next, we're going to take a look at how we can get the first or last business day of the month. So in order to do this, we're going to use the workday function, and this is going to allow us to add or subtract a given number of business days to a date. And here we're also going to use the international version, which allows us more flexibility with weekends. And so the workday function takes a start date, and the start date that we're going to use is actually going to be the end of the month of the previous month. So in order to get that, we're going to use the end of the month function with our date. And here for the number of months, we're going to use -1 to give us the previous month's end of month. And now if we add 1 business day to that, then that's going to result in the first business day of the month. And here our Workday International function allows us to choose various types of weekends. So let's go with the standard Saturday and Sunday. And this is also going to allow us to enter a custom weekend like the network days function with a string of 0s and 1s. So here let's choose Saturday and Sunday. And the workday function also allows us to input a list of holidays. And when we press enter, that's going to give us the first business day of the month. So in this case, it's going to be a Tuesday, since the first is a Sunday, and the second is in our list of holidays here. And so the third is going to be the first business day of this month. We can also use the workday function to get the last business day of a month. And here the start date we're going to use is going to be the end of the month. And again, we're going to use the end of the month function with our date. And here the number of months, we're going to use 0 so that we get the end of the month of our current month. And now if we subtract 1 business day, so if we input -1 as the number of days, then this is going to get us to the last business day of the month. And here we can choose our custom weekend or our standard Saturday, Sunday weekend. Let's choose that. And again, we can also add our list of holidays. And when we press enter, we're going to get the last business day of our month. In this case, it's the 29th, which is a Friday. The next calculation we're going to take a look at is getting the first or last Monday of the month. And in fact, you can use this to get the first or last Tuesday or Wednesday or any day of the week for your month. And to do this, we're going to use the weekday function. So here we've got a date, and the first weekday date that we want to return is a Monday. And within the weekday function, that's 2. So Sunday is a 1, Monday is a 2, Tuesday is a 3, etc. And so in order to get the first Monday of the month, we're going to start on the 8th of the month. And then what we're going to do is subtract a given number of days to get back to a Monday. So in order to get the 8th of the month, we're going to use the date function, and we're going to get the year from the year function, and the month from the month function. And then we're just going to put 8 as the day, and that's going to give us the 8th of the month. And then the number of days that we want to subtract from that, we're going to calculate with the weekday function. And so we're going to take the weekday of the 8th of the month minus the weekday number that we want to return. And so in order to get to a Monday in this case, we need to subtract 1 day from the 8th of the month. And so if we take our 8th of the month and subtract this value, then we're going to get the first Monday in our month. Now we can do something similar to get the last Monday in a month. So first we need to calculate the last day of the month. And to do that, we're going to use the end of month function. And we're going to use our date. And we want the end of the month for the current month. And in this case, that's going to give us October 31st. And we're actually going to add one onto that so that we get the first of the next month. So in this case, it's going to be November 1st. And this way, if the last day of the month is the actual day that we want to return, then our formula is going to return that if we start at the first day of the next month. And so here we're going to use the weekday function for this first day of the next month minus the weekday number that we want to return. And so we need to subtract 4 days from this date here. And that's going to return us the last Monday of the month. And when we press enter, we get the last Monday of the month. In this case, it's October 28th. The next calculation we're going to take a look at is getting the previous or next business day from a date. And we can do this fairly easily with the workday function. So here, let's use the Workday International function. And that's going to allow us to select different styles of weekends. So here, we just need to supply the date. And if we want the previous business day, here we're going to put -1 days. And that'll give us the previous business day. And then we can select our weekend type. So here, let's choose Saturday and Sunday as our weekends. And then we can also add our list of holidays. And that's going to get us the previous business day. So in this case, that's a Friday. We can also use the workday function to get the next business day. And so here, we're just going to add our date. And here we'll have 1 day. And again, let's choose Saturday and Sunday as our weekends. And add in our list of holidays. And then we're going to get our next business day. So in this case, the next business day is going to be the Monday. The next calculation we're going to take a look at is getting the previous or next Monday from a date. And we can, of course, extend this to get the previous or next Tuesday, Wednesday, or any day of the week. And in order to do this, we're going to use the weekday function. So first, we're going to take our date, and then we just need to subtract off the correct number of days to get us to a Monday. And in order to calculate that correct number of days, we're going to use the weekday function. And so we're going to get the weekday number from our date minus this weekday. And so we're looking for a Monday. So for us, we need to subtract off 2, since 2 represents a Monday in the weekday function. And when we press enter, we get the previous Monday date. Now we can do a similar thing to get the next Monday. And so here we're going to take our original date, and this time instead of subtracting a number of days, we're going to add a number of days. And the number of days that we're going to add is also going to be calculated based on the weekday function. And here we're going to take 7 days of the week minus our weekday function result of our date minus the day of the week that we're looking for. And when we press enter, we're going to get the next Monday in this case. The next calculation we're going to take a look at is going to allow us to get the weekday name or the month name from a date. So in order to do this, we're going to use the text function. So the text function allows us to take a value and format it as text and apply a certain formatting to that value. So here we're going to use the text function with our date, and the format that we're going to apply to this is going to return the full weekday name. So a format string of 4 Ds is going to return the full weekday name for us. And when we press enter, we get the weekday name for that date. Now we can also use a 3D format string. And when we use that, it's going to give us an abbreviated weekday name. So the first 3 letters of the weekday. And we can also use the text function to return the month name. So here we're going to use the text function with our date value. And the format string that we're going to apply to this date value is 4ems. And that's going to return the full month name. Now, if we use 3ems, we can also return an abbreviated month name. So 3ems, that's going to return the first 3 letters of our month name. The last calculation we're going to take a look at is to get the quarter from a date. And in order to do this, we're going to use the choose function. So the choose function allows you to choose a value based on an index number. And the index number that we're going to use is going to be the month number from our date. So we're going to use the month function to get the month number from our date. And now for each of the possible month numbers that we can have, we need to supply a value to return from the choose function. And so this is going to be the quarter value that we want. So for month 1 or January, we want quarter 1. We also want quarter 1 for month 2 and quarter 1 for month 3. And in fact, we just need this pattern here. So 1, 2, 3, or 4 as the quarter value. And when we press enter, we're going to get the correct quarter now. We can use a similar choose function to get the quarter for a fiscal year. So again, we're going to use the choose function with our month number from our date. And here we're going to start our list of values at 3 instead of 1. So this way, January, or the first month, is actually going to be the 3rd quarter. And now if we press enter, we get the fiscal quarter for our date. So in this example here, we've got a date in October. And in our fiscal year, October would be the 2nd quarter. So there you have it, 10 essential date calculations in Excel. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel for future Excel videos like this one. That's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one.